If you would like to support Mercado Airwaves, visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. Find us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. Keep up to date with the show on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. You can see all of Nicole's work at typingwhentipsy.wordpress.com. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Mercado21Alex. Follow Mike on Twitter at mmercado2333 and on Instagram, MikeMercado2333.
What's up, friends? Mike here from Mercado Airwaves. If you missed any one of our past interviews with amazing guests like future Hall of Famer and pound for pound best fighter in the world, UFC flyweight champion Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson,
It's another day at the office, I get to go out there and test my skill.
to award-winning producer, director, and actor Orlando Jones,
Orlando, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, sir. I'm good, brother. How you doing?
and all the other interesting guests we've had on. Joining us today is director and writer David Ferrier.
Thanks so much, brother. I appreciate you having me on the show.
MMA legend Chael Sonnen joins us today.
Keep listening to your show. This is great. Thanks, my friend.
Just subscribe to us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. And while you're there, please like, review, and rate us, friends. It helps so much. We also have a Patreon for anyone who would like to support the show. Just visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves and see how you can get all of our interviews ad-free and before anyone else, and how you can get your business or company spotlighted on the show. Follow us on Twitter at mmercado2333. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/MikeMercado2333. And if you would like to see what we're up to behind the scenes, follow us on Instagram, MikeMercado2333. Thanks for listening and all the support.
I'm talking with a boy. He's at the age when the edges of the man he will become are just starting to press against his baby round face. He's got his first opinions and ideas and jokes, which are horrible because there is nothing that boys his age love more than corny jokes. There's a whole industry of knock-knock joke books for boys his age. Everything about him is gangly. His voice and his limbs fit awkwardly like hand-me-downs. He's young enough that his smile is easy, and he is the kind of boy who finds reasons to smile in everything. The cracking of his voice, a fire engine siren, the fact that when a grown-up is talking to him and listening to what he says. When I talk with kids like this, our conversations always seem to go the same way. So you're telling me there are all these books published last year for kids, they ask me. That's a lot of books. That's more books than I could read in a year. Yep, that's a few thousand. And all those thousands of books, I'm not in them? Well, yes. Are there books about talking animals? Oh, sure. And crazy magical futures. Absolutely. And superpowers and the olden days when people dress funny and all the combinations of those things like talking animals with superpowers and magical futures. But no me. No you. Why? Because you're brown. Of 3,200 children's books published in 2013, just 93 were about black people, according to a study in the Cooperative Children's Book Center at the University of Wisconsin. That excerpt is from The Apartheid of Children's Literature by Christopher Myers. Thank you for tuning in, everyone, to another episode of Typing When Tipsy. My name is Nicole Mancha, and today it's just going to be me and you guys. I decided to read that quote from The Apartheid of Children's Literature by Christopher Myers because diversity in literature is something that I just don't think is talked about enough. A huge reason why I am such a big advocate for diversity in literature is because when I was growing up, there weren't a lot of people who looked like me. There were people who looked similar to me or maybe had some same attributes as I did, but I didn't have that connection to characters the way that I was able to maybe when I got older or even when I started writing them. I'm fortunate enough to have two amazing parents, and one of them is German, and my mom actually comes from Germany. She moved here when she was 10, and my dad is first generation Hispanic. His family is from Mexico, so I am actually first generation on my mother's side and second generation on my father's side. And part of that cultural combination has really influenced the way that I write every single day. When I was growing up, I was often told that I was too white to be Mexican and too Mexican to be white. it was very disconcerting. It was very upsetting. It made me feel like I didn't quite belong. And growing up in Chicago, when I was a kid, I was in private schools, and my mom did an amazing job of always trying to make sure that wherever we went to school, there was a diverse group of kids. The thing was, a lot of the kids in my class that were Hispanic spoke Spanish. It created an interesting kind of culture between me and other students, because I had to find my place. And even in the neighborhood that I grew up, it was predominantly white. So I didn't really have that Hispanic culture necessarily around me. My grandmother and my dad, and even my grandfather all tried to kind of bring that to us, but we weren't taught Spanish from a really young age. The bilingual schools wouldn't take me or my little brother because they only wanted students who were Spanish speakers. So I didn't learn the language the way that I maybe would have if I was really engulfed in it. And now, even at 29, almost 30, I can understand Spanish, but a lot of that is just because I'm around it quite a bit. I'm still not comfortable with it. I still remember one of the most, I guess it was embarrassing at the time, and now I don't really care. But when I was younger, I was ordering something in Spanish, and I didn't really understand the way that the words laid out. So in English, you say something like, I want 2 chicken tacos. And I said, dos pollos de taco, or something like that. And they laughed at me. And for me, it just solidified the fact that I wasn't Hispanic enough. So when I started to create my own characters and I started to just write about what I knew, I wrote about what I knew. I wrote about female characters who didn't really fit in, who had this, multicultural kind of pull on each side and really didn't have exact characteristics for either one of them. It was something that was very important to me to talk about because I felt like there wasn't enough characters in literature and in film and movies that I got to see that were positive influences and really nailed that cultural kind of divide that I felt in my own personal life. So now that I'm older and I actually teach the creative writing class and I have teens who come from a slew of multicultural backgrounds, we talk a lot about diversity in reading and writing and why it's important. One of the things that's been coming up a lot is what can you write and what makes what you're writing okay, as well as should you be writing from a different point of view or should you be writing from a different perspective? It can be a really slippery slope because as a creator, as someone who is making a story or writing something, you have a slew of characters. The first person or the narrator, the protagonist, the anti-hero, whatever you may call it, is going to tend to be the person you relate to the most. That being said, when you're creating characters like that, should you be writing as, myself, a Hispanic and white female, be writing about an African-American male in Harlem? I don't think that's my place. I think there are plenty of other authors who can take that and truly create that and make it sound authentic because it is authentic to their own personal experiences. The reason why I tell my students to create stories for themselves and to create stories about their lives and their own experiences is because there's something about the human experience that is so raw and emotional and passionate and so unbridled and true that no one else is going to be able to give those stories the way that you will. So we had this conversation in my class yesterday, and I had a lot of young males in my class, which meant I was trying to keep it by the ropes because they're just, talking about this and talking about that and not really paying attention, which is, pretty typical. And I don't know if they were that interested in the actual writing of that day, but we started to talk about superheroes and movies and stories. And there was a moment when we're talking about these things and we were talking about how writing is done in so many places that we don't think about. If you're watching a movie, if you're watching a TV show, if you're reading a journal, if you're reading a magazine, if you're looking at art and graphic novels, all of those had writers there. And all of those writers now have affected you in your everyday life. And it only takes one student to really click, and I can see it when it happens, and it makes them realize that we are everywhere and our voices are heard and our voices deserve to be heard. That truly makes it all the worthwhile for me.
If you would like to support Mercado Airwaves, visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. Find us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. Keep up to date with the show on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. You can see all of Nicole's work at typingwhentipsy.wordpress.com. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Mercado21Alex. Follow Mike on Twitter at mmercado2333 and on Instagram, MikeMercado2333.
What's up, friends? Mike here from Mercado Airwaves. If you missed any one of our past interviews with amazing guests like future Hall of Famer and pound for pound best fighter in the world, UFC flyweight champion Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson,
It's another day at the office. I get to go out there and test my skill.
to award-winning producer, director, and actor Orlando Jones,
Orlando, how you doing,
Hey,
buddy?
sir. I'm good, brother. How you doing?
and all the other interesting guests we've had on. Joining us today is director and writer David Ferrier.
Thanks so much, brother. I appreciate you having me on the show.
MMA legend Chael Sonnen joins us today.
Keep listening to your show. This is great. Thanks, my friend.
Just subscribe to us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. And while you're there, please like, review, and rate us, friends. It helps so much. We also have a Patreon for anyone who would like to support the show. Just visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves and see how you can get all of our interviews ad-free and before anyone else, and how you can get your business or company spotlighted on the show. Follow us on Twitter at mmercado2333. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/MikeMercado2333. And if you would like to see what we're up to behind the scenes, follow us on Instagram, MikeMercado2333. Thanks for listening and all the support.
So we're talking about superheroes, and I had mentioned Spider-Man, and for all of you who don't know, I am a huge superhero fan. I think that there is something wonderful about people living in our world under our noses in a way. I think there's something fantastical about it that I just have always kind of been pulled towards. So in every story I write, even when I do write my speculative fiction or my supernatural books, it's always about things that are happening in our present real world and that we're just missing. Because I think knowing, or at least having that knowledge, or I guess knowledge isn't the best word, having that possibility that there's more than what meets the eye has always been something so amazing and more than. And I think that's what I live for when I create, is I want to be more than. I want to be more than just Nicole Mancha. I want to be more than just a student or a girl who works at a college or a teacher or, a girlfriend or a dog mom. I want to be someone who creates stories that speak to somebody else. And I want to be able to give people that connection to a character that they may not have had before. There are so many literary journals where people talk about the first time that they experienced a character, or they experienced a new human experience through writing and through reading, and being able to live that through someone else's eyes, I think can be very magical. But coming back to superheroes, when we were talking, I said, what is it about these characters that get to you? And, Spider-Man was one of the favorites. And I said, well, why is he your favorite? Well, he can do this, and he's a kid, and he's just normal, and he's this. But also because he can be so many things. And in the new movie that's coming out, I believe it's the Spider-Verse, Miles Morales is an Afro-Latino. He looks like people we know. He looks like some of my kids. He has these features that allow my teens to connect with him as a character. And while some people think that it's not that important, maybe it's not that important because you've had that growing up your whole life. When I was a kid, I loved the Disney princesses, and my favorite princess was Jasmine because she looked the closest to me than any other one. She had dark hair and dark eyes and olive skin, and all of those things connected me to her in a way that I didn't feel connected before. So writing allows for people to be able to live those lives through someone else. I get lost in my reading. I get lost in my writing. I get to live another life. There's a quote that says, writers live 2 lives, or writers live twice. I want to live twice, and I want to allow others to live twice through me. So why is diversity in writing important? Because I don't know what it's like to be an African-American man living in New York. I know what it's like to be a German and Mexican female living in Chicago, growing up with a father in law enforcement and mom in healthcare. I can speak to those experiences. Not everybody has those experiences. I want to be able to show you what it's like to live like this. And I also think it's other people's position to be able to show me how they have lived. How have you experienced this life? What makes that different? What makes it important? I haven't gotten a chance to read it yet, but I think a great example is The Hate U Give. I would never experience those things. I think it is important, though, for every other person to know those experiences, to have their eyes opened to those experiences, to realize that these things happen every single day. As a writer, I come and bring this because I want diversity in literature to not have to be something that we speak about because it's not there. I want us to have it be a conversation because that's what we're seeing. Diversity in fiction is something that I don't think we pay enough attention to. And I am fortunate enough to have a great group of people that I work with, shout out to Nicolette and Courtney, who are just phenomenal writers, but we've never fit those social norms. We didn't fit the norms in writing. We were outside the box. We didn't quite get exactly what people were looking for because we wrote about the other. We write about the other. We write about people that not everybody thinks about. We write about things that people don't want to talk about. And I think because of that, it allows for other people, maybe people that are experiencing it but don't want to talk about it, to be able to truly understand it and to be able to live in our minds for a moment. It can be so difficult to sit there and explain to somebody, this is how I was feeling, opposed to showing them how I was feeling. In writing, we talk about showing and not telling. What that means is I can tell you that I felt disrespected, or I felt that someone was judging me because of how I looked, or I could show you. I could show you about that time that I went to look at an apartment and I was asked point blank after I'd already had the conversation with this woman that I was Hispanic. And she asked me twice if I actually had a full-time job. Then she asked if my boyfriend, producer Mike, had a full-time job, and just making sure, and then asking where we were from. I'm from here. So those conversations don't happen to everybody. They shouldn't happen, but they do happen. Writing about those experiences allows other people to know that they are not the only ones, that they have a group of others who experience the same things. Now, I'm not getting into this to have a huge political conversation, because that's not what it's about. What this is about is that when we have the platform to talk about diversity in fiction and diversity in life, we should use it. I want to see books that have the authentic experience. I want to see books that have people from every different race, religion, and background writing about their experiences in life, fiction or not. Everything from fiction comes from something else. Everything from fiction has root in something that's happened to you. Maybe it's just a small part of it. Maybe it's just this tiny little piece of a story that started and wasn't exactly what you thought it was going to be, but that little piece was an actual experience that you had and something that someone else will relate to. All of this is to say that without diversity in fiction, how will we learn more about the human experience? Not everybody is going to be able to go through life and see all of these things in their lifetime. Not everybody is going to go through their life and have these actual things go on towards them, to them, or in front of them. By having people who are willing to talk about these things and write about these things and just show how they're feeling about these things means that we're still being educated about all of these different life experiences from people all over the world. And I think that's what makes these conversations important. That's what makes me want to talk about these things. That's what drives me to create and to write and to be a mouthpiece and a spokesperson for this particular subject, because I want people to know that I want to hear your stories. Other people want to hear your stories. Write them down, send them out, post them, get it out there, because without it, how are other people going to realize that this is what you live, this is how you live, whether it be positive or negative? It's really just about the human experience every day as you live it and knowing why you brought it to the table. Thank you, everybody. Every week you listen to me ramble on, and I so appreciate it. I would love to hear more from you guys about what you think about writing, how it affects you, what brings it to light for you. I've had such a wonderful experience thus far, and I know I've said experience like 13,000 times on this, and I apologize. But I have had such a wonderful experience writing about just writing about everything and then bringing it to the podcast and kind of talking to you guys. And I've really enjoyed these little sessions that I've had where I've been able to do kind of one-on-ones, and I think we're going to do a little more of them. But I would love to know topics that you guys want to hear about, want to talk about, want to have these open conversations, because it is so important, because part of writing is so solitary, as we have talked about before. And because of that, I don't necessarily think we always get to hear the other side. We don't always get to communicate as writers and authors and readers and people the way that I would like to every day. Because like I tell people all the time, writers are a wonderful bunch. We have a great group. The problem is we don't work in an office with cubicles where we all sit next to each other. Nobody else gets why I want to throw my keyboard across the, the table, because my character is not doing what I want her to. Writers get it. You all understand where I'm coming from. But because we don't get to sit there, and because we don't get to communicate all the time the way that I would love to, this is such a great way for us to have those conversations and to have those talks. So I would love to know more about what you guys want to hear about, what you guys want to talk about, and just get to know you guys better. So please comment, let me know what you want to talk about. I would love to bring it up on the podcast. Thank you again, everyone, for tuning in to another episode of Typing When Tipsy. I so look forward to talking to you guys again next week.
If you would like to support Mercado Airwaves, visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. Find us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. Keep up to date with the show on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. You can see all of Nicole's work at typingwhentipsy.wordpress.com. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Mercado21Alex. Follow Mike on Twitter at mmercado2333 and on Instagram, MikeMercado2333. If you would like to support Mercado Airwaves, visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. Find us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. Keep up to date with the show on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. You can see all of Nicole's work at typingwhentipsy.wordpress.com. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Mercado21Alex. Follow Mike on Twitter at mmercado2333 and on Instagram, MikeMercado2333.
What's up, friends? Mike here from Mercado Airwaves. If you missed any one of our past interviews with amazing guests like future Hall of Famer and pound for pound best fighter in the world, UFC flyweight champion Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson,
It's another day at the office. I get to go out there and test my skill.
to award-winning producer, director, and actor Orlando Jones,
Orlando, how you doing,
Hey,
buddy?
sir. I'm good, brother. How you doing?
and all the other interesting guests we've had on. Joining us today is director and writer David Ferrier.
Thanks so much, brother. I appreciate you having me on the show.
MMA legend Chael Sonnen joins us today.
Keep listening to your show. This is great. Thanks, my friend.
Just subscribe to us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. And while you're there, please like, review, and rate us, friends. It helps so much. We also have a Patreon for anyone who would like to support the show. Just visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves and see how you can get all of our interviews ad-free and before anyone else, and how you can get your business or company spotlighted on the show. Follow us on Twitter at mmercado2333. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/MikeMercado2333. And if you would like to see what we're up to behind the scenes, follow us on Instagram, MikeMercado2333. Thanks for listening and all the support.